former Buffalo Bill linebacker Shane Conlan on hand today. As part of the event, he signed a number of items, including a jersey for the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame and about 50 copies of Gail Jarrow's latest biography on Justice Jackson. Conlan is donating the books to Jackson Elementary in Frewsburg, where he went to school.
I'm going through that same stage right now with my son. My oldest, I have four children. My oldest is a pretty good football player, and I'm trying to tell him through that very few people get to the position where I was, and you really need to work hard in school. So, and he has done that very well. So, hopefully, you can only play football for so many years, obviously, and so it makes all the difference in the world.
Interesting to note, Conlan's coach at Frewsburg his coach at Frewsburg is now the superintendent of the district. Also, Jackson Center Chair Greg Peterson sat down for a one-on-one with Conlan as well.
Football town. It feels like a football town. The climate there, the winds of the lakes, the whole thing reminds you of a football game of the 60s. It's very nostalgic and very classic in that way. And you could talk about the football teams in all the cities in America, but I promise you, it's deeper there. It's deep.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Would you rather be than right here, right now?
There are real seasons in Buffalo, and that's Bill season and waiting for Bill season.
That's the way it is in Western New York. It's a way of life. The Bills are a way of life.
Buffalo on a Sunday afternoon, baby! Yeah!
This movie is rated R. Adult language and violence. Lots of...
A rapidly developing defense was led by All-Pro Bruce Smith. 1987 first-round draft pick Shane Conlan. And Cornelius Bennett, acquired in a mid-season trade engineered by Bill Polian. Polian was the behind-the-scenes maestro, orchestrating the Bills' return to prominence.
Hammer time.
Hammer time to me is big plays on defense. You get a sack and a forced fumble, something to disrupt the offense. You get on them and you pound on them. You never let them get back up. I mean, you just keep beating down on them until you can't see the head of the nail anymore.
Up in the pocket. He throws. It's deflected and intercepted by the Bills. Leonard Smith at the 30. Down to the 20. 15. 10. 5. Touchdown. He scores. Leonard Smith.
You can get it done. You can get it done. What's more, you gotta get it done.
Let's go, guys. We're going to knock their ass off.
A run by Antoine Smith. Antoine ran right over the safety. A running play. Thurman Thomas breaks it at the 25. Still on his feet at the 20. Gets down to the 15. The 10, the 5, and scores.
To the city of Buffalo, to the Buffalo Bills organization, I love you.
The Bills have done it again. Do you believe it? And now it's for the 2000, boys.
It's like a college town in many ways. If you go to downtown Buffalo, there's banners out the windows, people wearing sweatshirts and T-shirts. Go Bills, go Bills.
Ferguson rolling out, looking, throws toward the end zone. It is good for the touchdown.
They tore the goalposts down and they passed one of the uprights all the way up from the field to my box.
And that was part of what we wanted to give back to them. We wanted to go out and play extremely well. We wanted to make those people very proud of us.
What a fantastic play by Jim Kelly. Spectacular touchdown run by Kenneth Davis.
Oh, was that ever spectacular?
We're awesome.
to be able to accomplish what we did, it's unbelievable.
I mean, how many teams get to the Super Bowl as many times as the Buffalo Bills?
That whole run was a run of greatness, and history will show that there won't be another team to do what this team did.
Reed at the 20-yard line, still on his feet, to the 15, down to the 10, to the 5, in for the touchdown.
I still hear echoes from those sounds which glorify this game. I hear the cheers of the crowd.
Bills can win it here. White puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. Incredible. What a comeback by the Bills.
The memories, they're treasured memories. And to have been part of it, is it gratifying? You bet it is.
Touchdown, Roscoe Parrish! Unbelievable!
73,000 jaws dropped right now because just electrifying, and he brings this crowd to life once again.
All people wanted in Buffalo was just one. Just once to say, yes, our time has come.
Molds, James Lofton, Pete Metzelaars, Joe DeLamiere, Kent Hall, Jim Richards, Steve Christie, Bruce Smith, Fred Smerlas, Darryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett, Mike Stratton, Butch Bird, Nate Odoms, George Sames, Henry Jones, Brian Moorman, Steve Tasker, Marv Levy, and Shane Conlan. That's an incredible company that you are in, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Greg. It is quite an honor. I think I benefited from growing up in this area. I had a lot of votes in this area, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. But yeah, it's a great honor.
Going to probably work this way backwards, but you recently were up there for the celebration of that, September 17th, I believe. What was that like, walking in? You probably hadn't seen a lot of these guys in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I keep in touch with some of them. I usually go to Jim Kelly's golf event every year. So I see him twice a year, but other than that, I haven't seen most of those guys in a long time. Cornelius, it was good to see him. Darryl Talley. It was just great to get back with all those guys. We're all a little older, a little fatter, a little balder, but the same BS comes out of their mouth that it used to. It's unbelievable. How the new players, they don't know how to play now. That's my favorite.
Do they?
Oh, well, let's put it, they play it a little differently than we used to.
When you, in fact, I'm going to show you a few pictures just to sort of maybe do a little back. This is a picture which your friend Scott Kinberg dug up. And why don't you describe that?
Yeah, that was our senior year. I have a buddy that is here, John Treadway, a really good friend of mine. We were both on that team. Steve, you didn't make the cut that way. Steve had
that's
already,
one.
Yeah, Steve he had graduated, so this was our senior year. Yeah, and our goal was to get in high school, play for the Frewsburg Bears, to get to Rich Stadium, and yeah, we got killed, I think, right, John? Yeah, it was a pretty bad game, but just getting there was fun.
One of the things I noticed is a very tall, slender, and I think I read someplace you were about 180 pounds at the time.
Yeah, that's correct. I remember I weighed in at Penn State my freshman year. They thought they were getting a 200-pound linebacker / safety kind of corner, and I weighed in at 182. So they're like, what is going on with this kid? So, but I was able to put on some weight since then.
The judge told a little bit about how Penn State actually recruited.
Yeah, by the way, Judge, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
This doesn't shock this crowd, by the way.
Right.
Well, but part of that was that the recruitment process? Did they actually see tapes of you as a football player?
Well, I owe a lot of it to my coach back then, which was Tom Sharp. I got turned down by a lot of people, Ohio State, Pitt. A lot of people were recruiting, and he kept working at it. Finally got a tape. They said, okay, we'll come. We didn't see him play football, and Tom Bradley came in a snowstorm, which that part was true, Steve. And he did see me play basketball. However, it was like I think that was my senior year. I was averaging like 23, 25 points a game. I had 3 points that game. But I fouled out in the third quarter, so it was So I think they like that. But yeah, and I was so upset because I really didn't play that well, but the next week they offered. So
did you get did they explain that they were looking at for other things? Obviously,
they just wanted to see, obviously my athletic ability and I guess aggressiveness. I don't know.
Well, if you fouled out by the beginning of the third quarter, good job.
Right.
I read an article, when you were at Penn State, that you said that you used to be aggressive. In fact, probably the term would be dirty when you played it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I look back, college years, I'm like, wow, I can't imagine. The stuff I used to do was really bad. And, but, a lot of penalties, nothing, at the bottom of the pile. And then I remember my rookie year, tried to do that stuff. You can't because you see these teams twice a year, mostly, especially in our division, so you can't do that. So I kind of cut it out. But yeah, I just look back at some of those dumb things I did. Just, hitting kickers for no reason, I was just dumb. But it was fun at the time.
I don't know who told me, and it may have been your good friend up there from Frewsburg, Cass, who said that there was a time where you did go after kickers, and it was sort of a game.
Well, yeah, it was more of a punter than a kicker. We just, after they would punt the ball, we'd just kind of circle around, they'd be jogging down and just boom, just kind of wipe them out. That's what I'm talking about, stuff like that. I remember running down on kickoffs, the ball would be kicked in the end zone, and the guy's back would be turned, because they know it, and I just run him over too. So, got a lot of penalties, frustrated Joe Paterno quite often, but we made it through, thank God. I grew up a little bit then.
Well, at one point, you did meet, for the first time, the legend Joe Paterno. Obviously, he had a reputation. What was that like?
Well, it's like, for me back then, he's still the man he was, but it's so iconic. You just see the guy and like, wow, this is the guy that you see on TV. And then you talk to him, it's like you still just are looking at him like, wow, this is really Joe Paterno. So I think, and then once you got to play for him, you hated him. He was especially young. He kicked me off practice fields religiously my first year. And I thought, he doesn't like me, he doesn't, then the next year, I redshirted that year, and then the next year, at the end of the year, I started, so that was all good. So, but now you understand why he did some of the things he did. He's more than just a coach, he is a teacher of life. He's like a father figure, so he always had a reason for the stuff he did, and obviously I know that now. Well, and we're good friends now, and I think those the players that don't get to realize what he's trying to do end up, just hating him throughout his life. But those that do get him, love him to death, and I think he's got a lot of fans out there because of it.
You were there during obviously you had great success there, lettered all 4 years.
Right.
And undefeated national championship.
Twice. I really wasn't on the first one, but I was redshirted that first year when we beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and I was there though. We helped them practice, and then my senior year we won against Miami.
Talk about that Miami game, because we got some Penn State folks here. Some serious Penn State folks, and so they certainly know of your extensive career. But that was quite a highlight game, that championship game, because I think you got the ball a couple.
Yeah. Well, that game was, to me. Somebody asked me earlier what my highlight of my career. I would say that game in particular because, first of all, the way it came down, it was like good against evil. Back then, Miami was with Jimmy Johnson, and they dressed in fatigues, and the whole thing was, and we were the good, clean-cut guys. So I think that's the way it started out, and then just that team was an awesome team. We were just very, very lucky that Vinny Testaverde threw 6 interceptions. Otherwise, that team is a tough team. But we were able to get them, and I got 2. I think a couple other linebackers had 2, so it's a big win for us.
You're underplaying one of the pivotal plays of the game, which actually led up to Dozier's final touchdown. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah, it's funny you should bring that up. My brother, who had just left, Kevin, the first thing, I remember after the game, he's out in the park, they all came to the game, he said, the first thing out of his mouth is, why didn't you score? He said, you just jumped and fell. And I was like, yeah, you're right, I should have, I kind of jumped over this guy, and if I took another step, I probably would have scored. But yeah, it was just, I guess I read it, it's so long ago. I read it and jumped and ran it.
Game's over. What's the locker room like?
Oh,
And you're
great.
national champions, and you're part of that, pivotal part.
Yeah, it was great. I just remember I had to get up the next day to go to the Today Show. It was Joe and I, so we were up until 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I jump in a limo with Joe, and then that next day had to go to Japan for the Japan Bowl, which was like miserable. And we were all in coach. And I had a leg brace on because I hurt my knee at the end of that game, and miserable. But that night was great. We were all stealing, I remember this, you're stealing beer out of Joe Paterno's suite because he was in the back suite and open. So we were old enough. We were 22 back then. So it was a great time.
What's Jerry Sandusky mean to you?
He's obviously the reason that linebacker U name came out is because of him. He's just a great teacher of same thing of men as far as through life, and then obviously his football credentials speak for itself. I mean, he can take what he likes to do is take good athletes and make them linebackers, and that's what he did with me.
Name some of the other guys that you kind of in that talk about linebacker U. This is quite an impressive list.
Yeah, I think, well, Buffalo has two. Well, one, I'm not sure about the new guy, Maven. He seems like a really nice kid. I know Puslesny pretty well. He grew up right across where I live in Hopewell, and I live in Swickley. It's just, the Ohio River, and we work out at the same Y, so I see him there every once in a while. Great kid, awesome player, and he gets really discouraged when he gets hurt. And I said, no, welcome to playing inside linebacker in the NFL. It's just a very tough position. The outside guys, you can see what's coming at you. The inside guys, sometimes you can't. So if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a good one. And I think that Maven is obviously a heck of an athlete. Is he playing linebacker or end? Right? Yeah. So he needs to get a little bigger, but yeah.
And of course, prior to you, there was the Jack Hams of the world.
Oh yeah, Jack. Jack lives in the same town. Where I live. It's called Swickley, Pennsylvania. We got a lot of Steelers. Ham, Franco Harris, Lemieux lives right down the road from me. So we got a lot of star power in our town. And Jack Ham is obviously a good friend of mine. I see him a lot. He's doing the radio for Penn State. He's doing a great job.
Here's another picture. Here's a picture that your friend Scott Kinberg gave to me. Smiling?
Yeah. No, toothless. Yeah, and the reason I would take my tooth out to protect it, it wasn't because of fighting. It was because I threw I couldn't eat with it. So I remember at lunch, I put it on the tray and just throw the tray away, and then I did it like 4 times. So finally, that's when I started putting it in my pocket. But now I got to fix. These are all, well, they're all fake, but they don't come out.
In my recollection, when I think of Shane Conlan, Penn State, I think of bubble defense. Yeah. What was that?
That was like the greatest defense ever because I never got touched. So, I don't know. Jerry just came up with it when he said, "Let's put the 2 inside linebackers there, and we'll put the defensive end out on your spot, and you come in 2 yards behind them. So it's like a shorter free safety." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Go tackle the guy with the ball." And I said, it was great. So I wish we would have ran it more actually, but it was fun. They put it in for that. I think it started the Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know, we played for the national championship the year before we won against Oklahoma, and we were unable. I think defensively we shut that kid down, Jamal Holloway. Remember that name? Like to -6 yards rushing. Our quarterback had a tough day that day. So, but other than that, we could have been 2-time national championships. Yeah.
I look at again the statistics, and I think during that particular year, the '86 national championship, you had led the team with 79 tackles, including 63 solo tackles. That's an amazing statistic. Do you think because of that bubble defense, is that?
No, actually, he put that in for just the bowl game, and then we did it that next year a few times. And then I just remember this picture, like this guy right here, Trey Bauer, who's one of my locker mates, a good friend of mine. He hated it because he was just, I'm just giving myself up for you. I said, that's right. It was beautiful. They absolutely hated it. So we didn't do it a whole lot the next year until we did it in the Miami game also.
Yeah. You had a chance to leave your junior year to possibly put yourself into the draft.
Right.
What was the decision behind all that?
It really wasn't. Just like with the baseball thing, my dad said, you're staying or you're going, and that's what I did, basically. So they checked my junior year, Joe, they put some feeders. They said, maybe end of the first round, second round. And I said, Dad, what do you think? He said, you're staying in school. So that really wasn't much of a, same thing with baseball. I said, what do you think? He said, nah, you got this education paid for, you're going to school. So it worked out.
Your dad did something during that end of the junior year, which I don't know if you even had known about at the time, but he took out an insurance policy.
He did, and I remember he got a second mortgage on his house to take out this insurance policy that cost him a lot of money. Yeah, great guy, great guy, smart guy.
Yeah. I'm going to show you a picture, another picture here again, the Kinberg connection.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. As I recall, the Bills. Well, first of all, as you get to draft day, you're in. What were the?
I was really mad. I remember this. My dad had invited all these people. I didn't even know about it. That's at my house, right? Yeah. The draft day. I wake up and there's cameras everywhere. I said, "What is going on?" He said, "Oh, they wanted to come." So, but other than that, so I just remember I got a call from the Cleveland Browns the night before saying that they were going to trade Clay Matthews, or not Clay, Chip Banks, and they were going to take a linebacker, and they were going to take me. And everything, they traded up from I think the 10th spot to the 5th spot, and they said, and linebacker from Duke University, this Junkin kid, and they took him, and I was like, oh. So then I remember I grabbed these guys, and my brother, and John, and Steve, and we went outside and just playing hoops, and then I heard the yell. I could hear my mother, everybody's clapping, and so obviously I must have gotten picked, so it was great. But I was outside the whole time. It gets really frustrating, nerve-wracking.
Oh, I can imagine. Did the Bills, did they do some trading with the Oilers to kind of...
Right, well, they had, the Bills at that time had the second pick, and they thought they could, this is the way Bill Bowling told it, whether he's BSN, but I think they thought I'd still be available at the 8th spot. They wanted me, so they just got a few more picks and picked down. They traded down to the 8th spot. So.
Did you have an agent at that time?
I did, yes.
Was that, was it hard to select who an agent might be?
Not really. It wasn't for me, which I owe a lot to Paul Webb. I think he's still a local attorney here. Mm-hmm. He and my father and I sat through 2 days of interviewing. We hired him to help us through this issue, and we all came down to the same guy. The opposite of Drew Rosenhaus. If you ever see that guy, the flashy guy, we were nothing like that. The guy I chose was Brett Senior, really low-key guy. It's about, for me, it's all about the athlete and not the agent, where I think that Drew Rosenhaus is all about him. So,
how do you feel about Drew?
Yeah, I know that Dan Connor, who all of Penn State knows him. That's his agent. I said, "What are you doing with that guy?" Yeah. And this Dan Connor is the quietest kid you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, but anyway.
Buffalo, Buffalo having selected you in the 8th overall, first round. Were you happy about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was playing for my hometown team, basically. It was great. Till the end, it got a little, just the fans were getting a little antsy. But other than that, it was great. I loved it. I remember coming home. I could come home anytime I want. Lived in Chautauqua with Steve. Yeah. See him on a day off. It was fun.
I saw one of my bosses, Mayor Dave Krieg, and he remembers those days as you had a picture with it. Was Judge Cass part of that world too?
He was.
He was, okay. Enough said?
Yep. Yeah, we had fun.
Okay. We'll talk about this later. You do know what he said about you beforehand, don't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. You walk into the Buffalo Bills, 1987. We didn't quite reach the glory years yet. Could you sense it? Did you sense the rebound of
Yeah. I mean, you could tell, especially on offense. We had a guy named Jim Kelly. I mean, the guy is. I remember just watching him throw a long ball. It's like, my God. I mean, every pass is right there. He will go down in history as being the best long ball thrower ever, I think. You know, and obviously he can make every throw. I think we had Bruce on defense, and then when we got and Bruce and Daryl Talley, and then I don't know, 3 games into the season, I think we got Cornelius. That's a funny story when we got him. I was playing outside linebacker at the time, and he's playing out. I thought, and then Daryl. We had 3 outside linebackers because I played outside linebacker in college. So I remember we signed him that day, or that Monday or something, and then we practiced. I practiced all week, and halfway through the game, he comes running in for me because he was playing behind me. I think so. I start to come out. He said, "No, you go to inside." I said, "I've never played inside in my life." So I look at the coordinator. I was like, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Tackle the guy with the ball." I said, "Okay." And that's all I did. Just had no responsibilities. Kind of like that bubble thing. So it worked out good. Just for that game. Then they taught me I was a linebacker. Then I was accountable.
Did you like that move? I mean, was that?
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, I think outside linebacker is really hard because you're so close to those guys. But you can see where they're coming from. Where inside, you can, if you miss something a little bit, you have speed you can come out of it a little easier than if you're caught on the outside, you're dead. I mean, that's a very difficult position to play because if you get hooked, you got 10 other guys that are paying for it.
Let's name names here. If you have a vignette or two, if I said Bruce Smith, what's that mean to you?
Greatest athlete I've ever played with.
Daryl Talley?
Oh, awesome guy. We had a great time. I was talking with him, that 50-year thing, it was just he and I and Daryl. We had a great time together.
Eddie Abramowski.
Oh, my man. He was if many of you know, he was our trainer. I used to go in early, just get tape, talk to him, just listen to him. He was the funniest guy ever. Love him.
He sat in your seat about a year ago.
Is that right?
And he was telling war stories about many, including you.
Yeah, he's the best. He is the best.
We talked about Kelly. What about Bennett, Cornelius Bennett?
I think I talked more to him, which is sad to say, that 50-year thing than I ever did playing football. It was just weird. Back then, there was a lot of egos involved. Like you can, like Bruce, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you tell, he likes to talk about himself a lot. But he has changed. When he was young, he was like that, and I saw him. He wasn't at the 50th thing, but I saw him before, and he was great. So I think that's when people realize, even like that the guy on ESPN, Keyshawn, what's his first last name? The guy for the Jets. Remember how bad he was now? Now he's telling other players how to act correctly. That's kind of. But I love them all. They're great players.
Here's a picture of you shaking hands with Marv Levy.
What a great guy. Marv was awesome. I remember a good story about, I had come to camp and I was ready to sign. I held out for like, I don't know, six weeks maybe. And I was coming to camp to sign, and I remember my agent something happened, and I'm in there, and they're arguing, and I was like, man, I'm getting out of here. So my agent in Napoleon, and Bill is really fiery, right? So he slammed something, and I'm walking back out, and I see Marv coming back from lunch. I felt so bad. He was so great. He came, gave me a hug. He said, listen, we'll get it done. Don't worry about it. They'll get it done. That meant more to me because I thought, my God, this guy's going to be so mad at me. He said, listen, that's between you and management. Now you're a player, I'm a coach. It'll all get done. And later that day it did. So he's just, and when I got to that, the Buffalo Hall of Fame, he called me right before I was going on. He's just a great, great man. Bill
Pullian, who was mentioned in the tape here, by the way, I apologize for all the copyright laws I violated by showing that. But Bill Pullian was really highly respected. What was he in your world?
Well, he's he and Marv are the reason he brought me to. I became a Buffalo Bill because of him. I mean, he liked the way I played, my temperament, and I owe him everything. And he was going to bring me to Carolina after I kind of retired, but I failed a physical, thank God. But he's just a great guy, great football mind. Obviously, you see what he built with that 4 straight Super Bowl team. It'll never be done. I agree with whoever said that before. It'll never happen again. And I think he's a really good football guy. You win with talent. I'm not sure if that's why the Bills are struggling now, or not. But I think if you get a good football guy in there, they'll get the right people in.
What happened to Thurman Thomas' helmet?
Yeah, I still don't know. I was on the other end. Yeah. It was offense on that side, which is kind of funny. There's 2 separate teams. Don't kid you. We're not all together. There's 2 separate teams. There's the offense and the defense, and then you meet on game day. Is basically it. And so we never saw them a whole lot because it's all meetings all the time. You just meet, go to practice, and then go back to meet. So then we meet on Sundays and after the game at Jim Kelly's house. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
He's keeping going. Yeah. There's more to this when he said.
No.
A couple of games, of course, for all us fans who lived during that time period that jump out. And one is wide right.
Feel bad for him.
Tell me a little bit about what was going on and maybe the senses. The offense, I mean, you're now off the field. It's the final drive. Yeah. Kelly's sort of moving his way down, and I'll tell you an Adam Linger story here in a second.
Well, I think for me, it was just we had played so well up to that point defensively. Offensively, they were out of their mind. They scored every time they touched the ball, and it was true in that game. Every time they touched it, but we couldn't get off the field. So we did not play. That was our worst game of the year. And granted, Porcel he had a great game plan. Just keep running the ball and eat up the time. So I blame the defense more than I blame Scott Norwood. I mean, although that's his job, but that's why you want your kids to be punters, not kickers. There's no pressure on punters. You get a punt block, big deal. You miss a winning field goal in a Super Bowl, that's a big deal. So I remember just seeing him after the game. It's just, what do you say? I mean, he tried to hit it. Missed it.
Was there a sense on the club that just we should never put Scott in that position?
Absolutely. Especially, that's what I'm saying. Defensively, it was just so bad. We were the worst in probably 2 years that we played. We just couldn't stop that guy. We couldn't get him off the field. Then every chance we had, it was 3rd, and I remember that long one that Ingram caught. I mean, we had him 5 times. 5 guys had him, and he still got it. Yeah. So we knew all we had to do is get them off and get our offense on. And they were moving the ball at will.
Then the great comeback. Did you talk about? I've only heard from. We've had Steve Christie sit there too and talk.
Yeah, I saw him too.
In during halftime, obviously things aren't good. And what's Walt Corey saying to you guys?
Well, I remember it's a run and shoot, so they had only 1 linebacker in. So I was a nickel. Daryl was the 1 linebacker, the cover linebacker, and if we went nickel, I was the other linebacker. So the first time they went down, I wasn't in. They score. Second time they score. So I go, well, let's go with 2. And then I came in, then they scored again, and then they scored again. I said, okay, let's get 4 linebackers. Let's go back to our old defense. So we convinced them to do it, and we started stopping, and then they started to, score. It's not so much just stopping, just slowing them down. You play. That's a tough offense to play against. And then, just Frank Reich was out of his mind. He was completing every pass, and it was great. It was just a great, great game.
Was there an aha moment on the sidelines where you kind of said?
Well, I remember at halftime walking out, I said, man, everybody's screaming like, play hard or you're going to hurt. It's going to be a long off season. Just whatever happens, you better play as hard as you can, because sometimes when you take plays off, you get hurt. So you better play hard, or it's going to be a long off season, especially with life. Then we started, scoring some points, stopping, and it was, wow. Then I just remember the fans just, the rows just emptying. People going out, and they wouldn't let them back in, I hear. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people missed a good, and it was a blackout, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people missed a good game. It was exciting, exciting good.
Well, I think I was one of those with my wife that would have left if we could have, but the traffic jam was so great leaving at halftime that you decided to stay. And we did. The 4 Super Bowls, and I know you were at 3 of those.
Right.
After the third Super Bowl, what was going on in your Shane Conlan's world? I mean, the next stop was L.A. How'd that all transpire?
Well, I remember I got hurt the game before. We were playing, I think, Denver. And I remember it was a quarterback sneak, and Elway was as I was jumping to get him in the air, he was in the air, and somebody just got me in the knee, so I hurt my knee a little bit. So I didn't practice those 2 weeks, and then I tried to play against Washington. And I tried on the third play of the game, I got hit again. So I was in the locker room at halftime. And then Matt Millen was on the other team, and he was in dress because of our run, or our K-gun or whatever. So it was great. Us Penn State linebackers hanging together. So he was playing for the Washington Redskins. He came in, and we watched the second half, just in the training room. He was sitting on one table, I was sitting on the other. What a great, we just watched the whole game. He didn't care. It was awesome. That's the only thing I remember about that, other than I think Jim had a rough game that game. Yeah.
What was you were a free agent then, right?
I was, and the Bills wanted me back, but I just, family reasons and everything else, I had to take the money and run, basically, to the lowly Los Angeles Rams, which I think, that was difficult that next year, because you're used to a winning environment. The locker rooms were so different, it was unbelievable, between the Bills and the Rams. The Rams were like, you'd lose a game, even a close game, nobody cared. It was like, it was a big joke. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, win or lose, we were always quiet in there. I mean, a little more when you win. But even if we thought we were supposed to win and wouldn't win by a big number, I mean, it was quiet in the locker room. Just an air of professionalism kind of thing. That first year was really, really bad.
But you had a good year.
I think we won, I think we won 4 games that year.
Personally, you had a pretty good year, didn't you? Were you MVP of the team that year?
Yeah, well, the second year I was the MVP of that, and I think we won 5 games that year. And then we moved to St. Louis, the franchise did, and we were, at one point, we were 4-0. And they're talking playoff, then we were 5-1, and then we didn't win another game. That was tough.
That sounds familiar with the Buffalo Bills. Was it last year? Right?
Wow.
5-1 and
that is so deflating.
You had so many games. Is there one or two that sort of stand out as sort of Shane Conlan highlight films?
Well, I think in college it would be the national championship game, because it was such a big game. And I would say in the NFL, probably that first Super Bowl game, although we didn't play that well. I'm getting old. This is 20 years ago. I remember one game that it was against New England, but I can't remember what year. And I remember I had a lot of plays, but other than that, I really too many whacks in the head, I guess, or something.
You had a nickname at Penn State. It was called Jughead.
Yeah. My buddy Bob White is a defensive lineman who actually works at Penn State now and runs the suite. So I see him there every time I go. He gave it to me. Can't imagine why.
So here's a Sports Illustrated article of 1986 that says, this out-of-uniform Conlan is a small-town boy who loves Springsteen and uses expressions such as really nice and so great. And you have no jewelry and hanging from your ears, and they thought that was pretty special.
Yeah, I still don't have any jewelry. Yeah.
Now,
I'm just a kid from Frewsburg.
Just a kid from Frewsburg.
Just a quiet kid from Frewsburg.
As was a guy who's right back there, Robert H. Jackson, a kid from Frewsburg.
Right.
We're going to draw closure, or we're going to open up for Q&A, but I just wanted to know, but a little bit earlier today, as sort of a thank you to Shane and to Judge Cass, they both from Frewsburg, New York, and both had graduated from the Robert H. Jackson Elementary School.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that part of serendipity, frankly, was lost on me until a few weeks ago, and we beforehand had the superintendent of the schools of Frewsburg and the principal of the Robert H. Jackson Elementary School, and 2 students here to receive books on Robert H. Jackson, which were given to the elementary school in honor of Shane and Steve. So I want to thank, that's one of the things that happened a little bit earlier, and it was just, the tie-in was just too great from a couple of us guys who came from Frewsburg, New York. Let me pause for a second, because I've been doing a lot of talking, and he's such a good interview. Questions? John Lloyd gets the first one. Oh, thank you. He's Mr. Penn State.
Penn Stater, I know, he told me.
This year, Paterno was looking like he's going to retire at some point, either that or...
Don't come.
But I mean, maybe not. But they're number 2 in the country in recruiting.
Right.
What do you do? I mean, kids are coming even though they know he's going to retire and possibly retire before...
Well, I don't think they do. I think he's telling them he's staying. So, if I had to guess, he's going to be there for a long, long time. I really do. I think he's, I don't know. But the thing that's, you have Joe Paterno at your kitchen table, other than, so who's going to be the next guy? And obviously, a lot of people say Tom Bradley, but I think the difference still, you got Joe Paterno here, which is, I mean, Tom is great, and I love him, he recruited me, but it's still Joe Paterno.
Just coming back home here, just tell me, how does it feel to be back in the area, and what brought you back?
Well, I got a phone, what brought me back, obviously it's great to be back to see my family. My family lives right down the road, so I was at my parents' house earlier today, and I saw my brother and my good friend John Treadway are here. And what brought me here was Steve Cass asked me to come, and kind of I said, as long as I don't have to talk, I said that'll be fine. And they're going to ask questions, so it's basically to support Steve and what he's doing.
And is it nice to be able to give back to Frewsburg and the schools that you obviously helped make you the man you are today?
Oh, absolutely. It's great to. I'm glad to see one of my old coaches, Steve Vanstrom's here, who's now the superintendent at Frewsburg. So it's great to see him, and I haven't been back to see a game in a long time in Frewsburg. So hopefully next year, because my kids are playing now too. So, but it's great to be back. Absolutely.
And then the books, obviously, education being the outstanding point here. How important is it to let young kids know that education and reading are very important to them?
Well, it's very important. Obviously, I'm going through that same stage right now with my son. My oldest, I have four children. My oldest is a pretty good football player, and I'm trying to tell him through mine that very few people get to the position where I was, and you really need to work hard in school. So, and he has done that very well. So, hopefully, you can only play football for so many years, obviously, and so it makes all the difference.
A rapidly developing defense was led by All-Pro Bruce Smith. 1987 first-round draft pick Shane Conlan. And Cornelius Bennett, acquired in a mid-season trade engineered by Bill Polian. Polian was the behind-the-scenes maestro, orchestrating the Bills' return to prominence.
Hammer time.
Hammer time to me is big plays on defense. Get a sack and a forced fumble, something to disrupt the offense. You get on them and you pound on them. You never let them get back up. I mean, you just keep beating down on them until you can't see the head of the nail anymore.
Tighten up now. Elway waits for the snap, backs up in the pocket. He throws, it's deflected and intercepted by the Bills. Leonard Smith at the 30,